We've all been taught to worry when kids act out, when they're loud, when they're restless, when they're struggling in obvious ways. But no one tells us to worry about, let's say, a girl who's quiet, the one who follows every rule, who never causes trouble, always kind of smiles, apologizes for things. That girl often gets praised. She gets called polite, mature, or easy. But sometimes that is the girl most pain. Because that quiet that you're really praising, it might be a sound of shame. And this conversation is about the part of ADHD we rarely talk about, the emotional cost of being misunderstood and unseen. And my guest today, she knows that story too well. Not because she read it, but because she lived it. So if you ever wondered whether your daughter was really okay, if you've ever seen her succeed on the outside, but really sink on the inside, or if you've ever been that girl yourself, then this conversation is for you. Please help me welcome the brilliant Pipa Simou. Hi, Pipa. So happy
Hi,
that you joined us.
I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
A pleasure, a pleasure. Before we continue, could you please take a moment and introduce yourself to our audience? Tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I am today a chartered coaching psychologist, but my professional background is in secondary school teaching here in the UK. I thought I would probably die a teacher, but there was a different plan, clearly, for me, because both of my children, as it turned out, are neurodivergent, and my son in particular needed more of my attention than teaching would allow me to give. I needed more flexibility. So I stepped away from teaching and became involved in the world of ADHD and autism. And although I did know it was a hereditary an inherited condition, I still didn't see it in myself because I wasn't like him. So I wasn't like my son. And he was quite spectacular, quite the typical male presentation. So very obvious, very observable. And my own ADHD quite literally bit me on the bum. I, when I look back, I feel a bit confused how I didn't see it. But anyway, I know I didn't. And I came across some people at a conference. They had some software for measuring ADHD symptoms, and I thought, oh, how jolly useful that would be. And I'll try it so I know how it feels to do this software test. And I got an incredibly high score, possibly the highest score I've ever received for any test result. And so this test compared me to other women of my age doing this test, and we could see how inattentive, how impulsive, how hyperactive I was compared to them. Turns out very much more than my peers, which alerted me to my daughter, who is just like me. And I'd be saying to her, don't worry, I was just like that when I was your age. It's fine. Um, so at that point, I decided to give my time and talent such that it is to devoting myself to supporting largely girls and women to live well with ADHD. I deliver training to professionals. I work one to one, and I also try to have a voice of sort of advocacy and lobbying various government, council, this type of thing to try and really uncover this hidden experience of ADHD because, to be fair, I was hiding it myself. So I suppose, arguably, I've only got myself to blame, but I didn't know, I didn't understand that's what was happening. And so that's what I'm trying to do now and help girls and women hopefully live well with their differences rather than try to bury them. So that was quite a long introduction. Clearly, I talk a lot. That's one of my things.
Before we go on with this session, I just wanted to remind you that you can still upgrade to the Summit's VIP Pass. Besides the lifetime access to all the sessions, you also get the audio files, you get the workbook for each session, you get the expert action blueprint with key takeaways from each masterclass, you get the English subtitles, and really a bunch of other things that will save you tons of time and really make a huge difference with your kid and with your family relationships. So, if you're a busy parent and you want to get the most out of the summit, then I really encourage you to find the button somewhere on this page and go check it out. You can still get access at a discounted price before our summit ends. And now, let's get you back to the program. That's one of the fine things for you to be here, and we love that. We love that. What you said, or like you just mentioned, you've kind of hit it, but a lot of women with ADHD grow up being the good girl, like I said in the, not because they were really okay with it, but because they were, so afraid of being too much or,
Mhm.
over everybody else that they made themselves kind of small just to
Mhm.
be safe.
Yeah.
What do you think it does to a little girl when her whole identity really
Mm.
is built on that hiding her inner struggles?
I think the biggest price she will pay for that is the utter exhaustion of keeping it up. I often say to my clients, we are working twice as hard for half as much continually. And when I work with the girls, I'm often saying to them, if it feels hard, it's because it is really hard. It's not because you need to try harder. It's not because you don't care. It's not because you can't be bothered. It is because this, for our brain in this environment, it is incredibly difficult. So trying to hide this and appear to fit like the other girls or the other women, whatever situation you're in, it is exhausting. And we're living in a sort of heightened level of vigilance, kind of, scanning the horizon, looking for the threats, what's going to get me found out, what's going to get me seen. And all of this, like the internal messaging is, I am wrong. I am defective. I am clearly broken myself. And I have to hide that. I have to make up for it. I think also about the whole good girl piece is around, so people with ADHD tend to be very emotional beings. We feel things big, and the price of criticism or rejection is well, it is a devastating experience to us. And obviously, I realise no human enjoys that, but for us, it can take us out of play. So the good girl piece is around ensuring that we hear plenty of praise and recognition and acknowledgement, because we need that to feel okay about ourselves. And it almost doesn't matter to us how much that hurts, how much I have to try, like, but I need them to think I am just like everybody else.
Mhm. And with all of that, a lot of shame arises, right?
Definitely.
What
Yeah.
would you say are those first glimmers of shame? Like when, like you said, when she's observing her
Mm.
typically devolving peers, what does a young girl start to sense that kind of plants the seed of I'm not good enough inside of
I
her?
think there is some awareness very early on of a difference, so that the girl is aware that for her somehow something is different, and they are all the same. She starts to think, okay, I am different. I don't want to be different. What can I, what can I, I want to fit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be double, triple checking everything that I say and or do to make sure I fit. So you can often get these kind of like almost compulsive, like checking myself, checking behavior, seeking reassurance all the time. Is this okay? Have I done enough? Have I hurt your feelings? That type of thing. And then another thing often, I think with girls with ADHD is it's a bit counterintuitive, because you can't imagine for a minute how a person with ADHD could be a perfectionist, because the image is we are so chaotic. But we can put a tremendous amount of pressure on ourselves to go above and beyond the expectation. So we hopefully hear the feedback. You're so wonderful. You're so smart. You're so clever. You know what? Oh, you're so grown up. You're so you're what's the word? You're so sort of dedicated. Like we hear those words back, that feeds this kind of cycle. Um, no one is really asking this of us, but these are the things we can slip into. And if you are parenting us, you might just think, oh, look at that. She really cares about her work. Oh, look at that. She's being really thoughtful about what she says and does. It doesn't really ring an alarm bell until perhaps the price of exhaustion kicks in, and there might be emotional fallout, probably at home, not at school, where there is a lot of dysregulation, and maybe parents are a bit like, crikey, what, where did that come from? But it will bubble out. So I hope that helps answer the question.
But I think we a lot of times we say to our daughters far too often, um, like try harder if they're like kind
Mm,
of all over the place. But when
mm.
this mask sets in, what is really trying harder feels?
Oh my gosh. And like a like you're on a roller coaster that you can't get off. You're being thrown around all over the place, living in as like I would say, like sort of maybe tension in the body, or like you can feeling heightened, feeling tight, just like waiting to get caught, like that kind of, like you feel like in a minute now it's going to be revealed, they're going to find out who I really am, I can't bear it, so I'm going to live in this very um yeah, vigilant, like a real state of vigilance, and this will, eventually your body will let you know what that cost you, it will show up
It
at
will
some
show up
point.
eventually, right? Right.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, sometimes um, those girls doesn't even they don't even look like they're trying because they're really
Mhm.
quiet, they're
Mhm.
polite, they're really composed, and no
Mhm.
one sees the
Mhm.
downward spiral. What are those subtle, almost unnoticeable ways that a girl is actually saying, "I'm not okay"?
This is a tricky one because, of course, she doesn't really want you, the teacher, or her parent. The thought of disappointing them is utterly crushing. So when I train teachers, I say, never ask them, are they okay? Because they will say that they are. And never ask them, do they understand? Because they'll always say that they do. Be more creative with your questions. How did that make you feel? How would you like to feel about that? Um, uh, what is your next step with this piece of work? Ask them more creative questions. But I think ultimately the thing that the girl needs to feel is she needs to feel a sense of real psychological safety. Undoubtedly, she will be actually physically safe. Of course, our schools are safe places. On the whole, your home is a safe place to be, but you might not be feeling it like that. So I think it's really helpful if the adults can model um, sort of the adults' own acceptance of their own mistakes as they make them, and talk about them being something to learn from rather than try harder to fix. Do you know what I mean? And that the adults can say it is human to make mistakes. It is, every human. These are the messages which I think they're things that most adults know, but we don't often say them out loud. Yeah, we're too busy saying, "Come on now, keep going, try harder, do more." And when I tell the kids I work with not to try, well, I don't tell them not to try. I tell them it's about trying differently. It's about trying in line with the brain that you have, not trying harder to do it like the neurotypical people do it, because that's never going to bear fruit for you. And what trying differently might look like could be quite a lot different. But if the adults around them are willing to demonstrate that they do things differently sometimes, and that's okay, then that's going to make it safer for that young person to feel that way. It's not one size fits all, is it? Like, no one system suits everybody. It can't. But for some brains, it's actually painful to go through the expected hoops. Um, but I think most teachers and parents are motivated by wishing good things for the young people, right? Like they want them to do well, they want them to achieve. They don't realize the potential damage that they're doing. And I always say to teachers, you don't know what you don't know. Like you just don't. Like they think they understand. Oh, I know what ADHD stands for. I understand that there's difficulty sitting still. And yes, all of that's true, but there is plenty that they can't know because we didn't really want them to know. So it's important that we get their voices out there and heard.
And hurt, yeah. What would you say are, other some of the most common things that we praise in girls that actually reinforce this?
Oh, yeah. So the kind of female, I don't know, archetypes that we celebrate seem to be organized people that plan, that are thoughtful, that are kind and considerate. And many people with ADHD can be all of these things. We are, a good girl is a good listener, is a sharer, is someone who take turns, reciprocally. All of these things. Um, that is the stereotype, I guess, that is praised. Often girls with ADHD get told, we get this too message. So we're either too sensitive, we're taking it too seriously, we are too much, we are too something. And I think that is a very damaging message to give to a human, that they're too something, because all that's telling them is they have to, like you said at the beginning, like shrink, like be less. I would like to say to them, go and get less. If I'm to something, you go and take less over there, and I'll continue to be me. You know, yeah.
I like that. That's a good one. But for you personally, Pipa, that silence, lasted a long time because you weren't diagnosed until
I
adulthood,
was
right?
44, yeah, so it was a long time, yeah.
Right, right. How did it feel to, finally recognize that the things you once shamed for were
Mm.
actually symptoms?
And it was a massive relief to have an explanation, because I had tried really hard. I really had, and I just thought, well, clearly you're on the bottom end of average, and that's why you have to try so hard. Um, and I thought maybe this is as hard for everybody, Pippa. Everyone is feeling it like this. Kind of, come on, they're. I'm observing them, thinking they're just managing better than I am. Like it's as hard for them, but they're just doing it better than me. To understand finally, oh, actually, turns out it is a lot harder for me. Um, it made me really value all of my achievements to that point. It made me see them with new eyes. Whereas I might have said previously, I did well enough when I went to university. I got a 2:1, which is, it's a good degree. But maybe my narrative would have been, well, you got the easy questions, Pippa. You got the easy questions. That's how come. Or you had a very sympathetic supervisor who really, really helped you. I would tell myself. So my degree is from the University of Wales. I now tell myself that was a first from Cambridge. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I see things like that now. I'm like, that cost me so much more than my peers. And I feel like, rather than uh, let's say feeling a bit, I think I used to feel like embarrassed and ashamed of myself. Now I'm like, you go girl. I'm like, that is, awesome what you did. I was late diagnosed with dyslexia as well, so that was another piece of my puzzle to explain my experience. Doesn't make the problems go away, but it does give you the tools to lean into the brain that you've got. If you know what you're dealing with, then you've got a hope of living well with it. But if you're just telling yourself, try harder, get up earlier, get another planner, whatever, this none of that's going to bear fruit. There was some sadness as well, I think, truthfully, for that girl, because she carried a lot of um, well, yeah, a lot of shame and a feeling of not being enough, not measuring up, and fear that they would find out somehow, and the wheels would come off. So it was a mixed experience. But in the actual moment when I got that software result, I remember thinking, wow, I'm in my son's team. Like, I remember thinking, like, it was kind of a unifying thing. Like, we are very different. And I had been very much like, I am nothing like that, like nothing. But it was kind of it was kind of a nice thing to feel unified with him.
Something in common, right? Right. And how you were mentioning your son, how did getting your own ADHD diagnosis change the way you understand your children?
So my son was diagnosed first in our family. So the thing that made the biggest difference then was, oh my gosh, this is happening to him. He's not deciding. He didn't decide to be. This is happening to him. Like, to realize that it wasn't a choice for him was huge, and to understand that behavior is communication, and he's trying to tell me something. So that was kind of, let's say, the first piece of the puzzle. In my own case, and in the case of my daughter, of course, we were internalizing our symptoms. So no behavior to see, except probably that we were quite emotional. We would get upset quite easily. That, I suppose, that was observable. Um, but I think I I felt very like, let's say, like I said, like, united with my son around when I discovered my own ADHD. But when I got that software result, my next priority was my daughter, not me, because I was like, oh no. So she was 16. She's older, so she was 16 at the time, and she'd just done her GCSEs. And I was like, oh my gosh, she has literally done that swimming upstream. And she didn't know, we didn't know. She's about to do her A levels. So that was where the time and energy went next. So we were able to get her assessed. She, no shock, has got ADHD, and she was able to access treatment. And I think for her, that was a real game changer, because when you do A levels, you have to be much more like a self starter. You have to be much more able to use your time. You the teacher's not giving you all the stuff to learn. You're having to, you know what I mean? You have to put you're more into it. And I think prior to her being on medication, she would probably like reorganize her bag or make a poster for charity, because she wouldn't have any idea, apart from the fact that the essay deadline is here. She wouldn't understand how to do the steps. So I think it made me think about medication quite differently as well. I think up until that point, I'd been very much like, oh no, that's not doing that. That's, I remember me and my husband saying, that's what lazy parents do. And then the psychiatrist explaining to us that in my son's case, this was her absolute recommendation, because he has a very severe form of this condition. And she had about 30 years of experience. So I listened to her, and when she explained how it worked, I was like, oh, that makes much more sense. And he was old enough to say whether he was willing or not. He was willing, and the same with my daughter. And I feel like I think maybe up until that point, my idea of medication would have been like, it's cheating, or it's like, yeah. And now I understand, actually that's about giving my brain the best chance, since it has to operate in this neurotypical framework. Then it's only fair that my brain has at least a chance to operate like that. And I'm so glad that we identified my daughter when we did. I'm sure she would have done fine if we hadn't, but she did way more than fine. She fulfilled her potential. And that's really what it's about. It's not good enough to survive, like, or be fine. Like, our kids should shine, our kids should thrive. And she got great A level results, went off to a great university, and has got a great degree. And all of that, of course, has had a much, a really big impact on her self concept, how she sees herself as a learner, as a human. She can say, I am clever, I am intelligent, I have succeeded. Whereas I was like, well, you've just scraped through, like you've done okay, kind of thing. So I don't, yeah, once again, I think I might have gone off the, sorry.
But yeah, I love it. You've also spoken about brain shame. So not just shame about behavior
Mm,
or the effort, but shame about how the brain itself works.
yeah.
What happens when a girl, stops blaming the world, the outside world, for misunderstanding her and starts blaming herself for existing the way she does?
So I don't think that's certainly not how I pitch it to the people that I work with. I say to them, it's about understanding the brain that you've got so you can thrive and flourish wherever you wish. Um, and I still think, even though the reason we experience things the way we do is because of our different brain, it is that there is a part for other people to play, our teachers, our employers, our partners, our families, in them too understanding our difference and making allowances for that, in the same way that they would if I needed a wheelchair or if I needed a guide dog. Like, no one would say no, no you can't, or you're on your own, find your own. That wouldn't happen. So um in a way, in my experience with the young people I've worked with, I would say they are relieved to know that it is not a choice that they've made, that it isn't because they didn't care enough or weren't trying. That actually it's very validating to know, okay, there's a physiological reason why this is happening to me. There are some things that I can do now, knowing that will support my experience. And there are things that other people can know and do also to support me, particularly when I'm a child, because I'm the vulnerable person. So teachers, parents are the people that we look to ensure that the best outcomes are achieved for this young person. And it's always when these things are identified early, of course, and that doesn't always happen.
Right, right. However, if this shame isn't caught early on, it kind of settles in the girl. And so many of these girls grow up with a voice inside their heads that, doesn't just criticize, but it kind of punishes them. How can we as parents help her quiet that voice before it shapes her whole?
I think one of the big favors we can do our girls is let them know that we know that there's a voice. Like, like that. Let's talk about the voice. Let's talk about it. Let's bring that voice out into the open and find out, what is she saying. I think, like, a lot of girls, when I work with them, they're like, about the voice, like, like, it's like they're like, they think I might have some secret torch that I'm looking in their head. I'm like, no, everyone has the voice. We all have one. But we don't talk, like, we don't talk about these things amongst ourselves. So it's letting them know that, there is a voice, making them aware of the impact of the voice on us. So, for example, if our self talk is positive, we are doing our grown up selves so many favors. Like, we are really, our 25-year-old self will say, thank you so much for that, because now I'm so much more healthy, more rounded. I have more to offer in my relationships and in my workplace. I have not had burnout. I'm not depressed. I'm not anxious. But if we don't bring this voice out into the open, and the girl is aware of her difference and she doesn't want to be different, likely her voice is going to be very negative, very harsh. I had a client once who said she felt like if her voice actually was heard out loud, she might get arrested. Like the way, it's so abusive. She would never speak to another human in that way. Not her child, not a friend, not even her husband. Not going there, but to herself, the tone, the language was incredibly damaging, and she had got so used to it, she it didn't even sort of register anymore. But when I asked her the voice and she told me the words and she saw my face, she was like, oh yeah, right, I see that now. So bring the voice out into the open, helping the girl appreciate the potential impact of that voice on her future well-being, health, and asking her, is there a different way of talking to yourself about this? Like whatever it is, like I often reframe, whatever they're saying. Like the girls are often like, "Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm rubbish at that." I'm like, okay, well, let's look at that. Can we talk to ourselves in a different way? Like, maybe I enjoy running. Maybe I could say, I enjoy running. It doesn't matter that I didn't win the race. I enjoy running. That's a good way of talking to myself. That's good for my health. It's not about, I don't know, beating my time or whatever thing it is. So um, I don't know if this is quite the same thing, but I tell I t- I tell them that I give mine so my voice has a name and it's Mildred, because I know nobody in the world called Mildred, right? So I say to Mildred when she starts shouting at me because I've lost my car keys or whatever it is, I say, "Thank you, Mildred, for letting me know. I appreciate the help, but it's all good. I know how I know how I'm gonna sort this out, and it's fine. Thank you." Um, Sort of, talk to talk back. You don't have to just accept the voice, right? Like you can say, hold on a minute, um, is that fair? And another thing that I think helps, what I observe about girls with ADHD is we are exceptionally good friends, right? So if someone is lucky enough to have us as a friend, they struck gold, because we are generous, we are funny, we are kind, like, and we're all in, we're giving everything. So they're super lucky, right? So they know how to be a good friend. So I say to them, how about you speak to yourself in the way that you speak to your friend? And that's like, oh yeah, okay, because they know what that is. Obviously, it's easy for me to say this. This is for them to practice, but it's something that parents can practice with their young people and bring out into the open. Like, they can talk about their own voice. They can, normalize this. I think can be incredibly powerful, even for a young girl, to know that her mum has that voice too, and this is what her mum does, and okay, it doesn't always work, but her mum's trying, or whatever. Yeah.
Liberating, right? Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about late diagnosis a bit more, because I think there's still a lot of girls and women who get late
Mhm.
diagnosis. What would you say are some of the most damaging, like the lingering effects when
Oh gosh.
ADHD goes unrecognized and
Yeah.
unsupported, during those
Mm.
critical formative years?
Yeah. So shame is something we've talked about a lot in this conversation. So shame is kind of a gateway emotion to pretty much every sort of horrible mental health situation that you can imagine. And so if it is not checked early, then I think the very least thing we will expect is elevated anxiety. Generalized anxiety disorder is the most commonly diagnosed co-occurring condition. So I think we can say for sure she's going to be anxious. She may well also self harm. She may well also have disordered eating or an eating disorder. She may also have low mood and be depressed. She may also experience suicidal ideation, and she might be tempted to end her life. So it is incredibly serious. And so I'm when I'm asked like about my work, I say I'm about living well with ADHD. I don't like to talk about the things that I've just said. However, it's so important that people realize how much more vulnerable girls and women with ADHD are to those things. Also, another common thing, so the ADHD brain is much more likely to become addicted to anything addictive. And this can be a place that is another hiding spot for girls and women with ADHD. They might be self-medicating with recreational drugs, with alcohol, smoking, vaping, that type of thing. They may well be involved in high risk relationships and behaviors. We are more likely to have unplanned pregnancies. We are more likely to have sexually transmitted diseases. It's horrendous reading. I think it was in 2020. Susan Young and her colleagues did a consensus paper, and they highlighted all of these vulnerabilities. And the longer the person is living with the unsupported, untreated ADHD, the more likely those outcomes are. So potentially life limiting. Parents that are listening, I want to say to you, parents that are listening, the fact that you're here, I would say, is an incredibly good sign for your young people. It's when the parents have no awareness at all, probably because they're living with it too and they don't know, where they've had the most appalling experiences in education, maybe with criminal justice themselves, and you get this horrible repeating circle. I think parents, if you're here, you've come to um, really do the very best you can for your ADHD child. And I'm not going to say that that's going to mean you don't have any problems at all. It won't. But it does mean that you will be very well equipped, know where to get the help and support you need, and know what you are up against.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Sounds encouraging. Is there a, you've worked with so many parents, right? Um, what is the one sentence you wish more of them never said it out loud to their daughters,
Mm.
and the one you wish they'd say every single day?
So, what's wrong with you is one that I think I would like to assign to the dustbin. First of all, they don't have the language and communication to even answer that question, right? And all they're being given is clearly try harder. Clearly, this is you. You need to do better. And something that I would love parents to be able to say is about loving who you are, like loving this girl, this one, the what, the real one that's here. Like, I wish when I am working with young people, I try to be the voice I wish I'd heard, and it's letting them know how brilliant, how bold, how brave, how incredible they are, and how much they have to offer. Like, most people accept the theory of evolution. We understand that ADHD is transmitted through genes. The genes are still here. So clearly, we have a point. There's a purpose to us. And we do incredible things. But it won't feel like that if you're a girl at school trying trying to succeed, trying to fit, and you know that it's incredibly difficult for you. So I would like parents not only to, let's say, tolerate the difference or support the difference, that they would actually celebrate who this young person is, and be next to them in it. I don't. I does that is that good? I don't know. Probably wasn't very concise.
It was a brilliant answer. Thanks. Before we finish, I just have a couple of rapid fire questions for you. Ready? Um, what's the one ADHD trait that you've now learned to love about yourself?
I think it is my empathy and emotional intuition. So I think I would have said previously that's a weakness, and it's getting me into trouble, and it's, you need to be more adulty, Pippa. Now I realize what a gift that has been and how it served me as a teacher. I was a great teacher. I wasn't so good at the report writing and that type of stuff, but I was very good in the classroom. And I'm like, now I look back, I'm like, that's where that came from. And I'm sure that's what fires my work now. I'm very authentic, and that I know that's my ADHD. I know that's where that comes from, and I know that's why I deliver as well as I do. So yeah, seeing that now as actually a real strength, and not as like, that's pathetic, Pippa, stop crying.
Beautiful. Tell me about a time when your kids taught you something about ADHD, something profound that even the research hadn't taught you yet.
Profound. Gosh, profound that the research hadn't. Um, what I noticed was, if my children had adults around them, so not in the family but outside of the family, that understood their difference and were living with the thing. So an ADHD adult with my ADHD kid, the that relationship was incredibly powerful, um, because it had no like it's so let's say it was, so my son had a mentor, for example, a man with ADHD. I realized that it wasn't just that this man knew about boys and naughty boys, for want of a better word. Actually, this man could see him, and my son felt seen by him, and that made such a tremendous difference, more than medication, more than a timeout card. And that has fired me and led me. So at the moment, I'm trying to, I've just done a pilot program where ADHD women have mentored ADHD girls. And what I'm hoping is that the data we can gather will actually prove quantifiably and qualitatively that this is some real magic when the adults own their difference with the young people. There is something incredibly powerful there that doesn't actually cost any money, right? Like, how good is that? There's no medication, there's no special equipment. It's that, and that can make such a tremendous difference. And I hadn't, in all the books I'd read about, what's good, I don't know. I don't think I've come across it.
Neither have I. That is brilliant. What is the one thing that you want every girl with ADHD to believe about herself by the time she's 10?
She is enough. She's enough. She has everything she needs in herself. And if it's hard, it's it's the situation, it's the environment that's making it hard. It's not her. And hold on, it'll get better. Hold on.
What does it actually look like, when a child finally believes
Mm.
she is enough just the way she is?
It is magic when you see it, when it's owned. In fact, I've got goosebumps when I'm just thinking about someone right now, and that moment of real self acceptance. And I think this is probably a fundamental thing actually for females generally. Like, I think this is something many females struggle with. We're striving, forgetting to notice actually how great we actually are. It is it is something incredibly joyful and validating. I think validating is probably the best word. Like, they now have a framework to understand themselves. And a lot of parents struggle with this idea of labeling their kids, don't they? Like, you hear that. Some people are like, well, I will understand that they have this thing, but I'm not going to use its name, and we don't need to get a diagnosis. But I would say it's not a label, it's a signpost. It's information. Like, better to know, better for you to know, better for her to know what she's dealing with, what is actually happening, right? Not to keep pushing forward, putting all that pressure on myself to try and be more like them. So yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what's your dream for the next generation of girls with ADHD?
My dream is that when parents suspect their child might have ADHD, they might feel excited about that. They might think, excellent, I have got a fabulous human being on my hands, and not feel like, oh my word, this is going to be hard. This is going to be a battle. I think we parent more intensively than our peers for longer. And we certainly have a lot more admin to do than anyone else with all the, medication, educational provision, whatever it is you're trying to get. I would like parents and the wider family as well, the grandparents, to feel this is a difference worth celebrating. When you look at really successful people in the world with ADHD, like, undeniably we are richer for them, for their creativity, for their problem solving, for their fearlessness. Like, undeniably we are brilliant, but so often we don't get to feel like that about ourselves for too long, and damage is done along the way. So yeah.
Brilliant. And the last question, how do you hope a summit like this, our summit, changes someone's life, even for just a little?
I hope that, so they always say, in all the work I do, awareness is like the first step, right? So growing awareness of what you're dealing with, how you're responding to it. Awareness is going to pay dividends to you. There's not going to be a quick fix. It's not like, come to this one summit, job done. It's a journey. And I would say, stay curious, keep asking questions, and keep coming back to things like this, because your child at 5 is different from your child at 8, different at 50. Like, there'll always be learning to do, and learning in a safe space with other parents who live your life. I think that is a bit of like magic there. Do you know, like, just being in that, because so often we can feel isolated and othered, and ashamed and confused and so yeah, I would hope that whoever is attending this, they come away richer for themselves as a parent, that they can feel like, I'm doing a good job here, and that they can make one change for their young person that makes things a bit easier for them. Like, that would be great. That would be a good start. So yeah, that's what I hope.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Pippa, thank you. Thank you for helping us see what so many girls have carried in silence, and really for reminding us that it's really never too late to trade shame and fear for
Never.
understanding, for compassion. Thank you for
Yeah.
taking the time to do this.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you again for inviting me, and thank you for the work that you're doing, because it is greatly needed. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Take care. Are you loving the advice and insights you're getting? Well, you can get lifetime access to all the summit session when you upgrade your ticket to the VIP pass. This means you're not only getting unlimited access to the sessions, you will also unlock the audio version of the entire summit, expert action blueprint with key takeaways and action steps, English subtitles, and a brilliant workbook that will help you implement everything that you get. You see, the VIP Pass is purposely designed to help you digest all of the content from the summit and implement this advice in your own life. And as you know, the internet is flooded with advice about ADHD. But how much of it actually comes from credible sources? How many times have you been led astray by unknown or unverified advice? Well, unlimited access to the entire summit is a place where information is not only just abundant, it's also trustworthy. So, if you want to be confident in the ADHD strategies every step of the way, then I think this is a place to start. I'm totally positive that you're gonna love the VIP Pass and all of the valuable resources that we have created for you. It's like having a personal library of expert knowledge right in your pocket. And here's the best part: if for any reason at all you don't love it, we'll refund you in full. No questions asked. So you really have nothing to lose. Grab your VIP pass now and don't miss this opportunity.